Welcome back to another video. Today we're reacting to Spongebob's Conspiracy Theory 4, the evolution theory. And if you do enjoy this video, go to Alex Bale's channel, subscribe, hit the bell, and put on notifications for his channel, so you never miss one of his videos. But if you do enjoy this video, not just the reaction, please like, subscribe, put on notifications so you never miss another video. It helps me a lot, and he puts a lot of work into these, searching for everything, so I'll also do it on his channel. So let's just get right into it.
Are the Bikini Bottom citizens the result of nuclear radiation? Who is Pearl's mother?
Yeah, who is Pearl's mother?
Krabby Patty's secret formula. These are by far the three biggest questions in the show SpongeBob SquarePants.
Yeah.
And today I'm going to be answering all three of them and more with just one theory. Get ready for the darkest SpongeBob conspiracy you'll ever see. This is the evolution theory.
First of all, guys, the thing I thought about that just now, if Pearl... No, I'm not right. I was thinking that Pearl's mother might have been this Krabby Patty secret formula because Krabs is the dad of Pearl and not mother, but she's not there and we don't know the formula, so she might be the formula. I don't know, probably not.
We're back with another SpongeBob conspiracy. Guess I'm the SpongeBob guy.
I've reacted to most of those. I'm still trying to make a part 2 to the Pearl. Yeah, I'm still getting ready to do that. I still don't have the equipment. I don't have the lighting and stuff.
He's trying to infiltrate that little round thing on his head there. Oh my god, thank God for Alex. Look at that. He's helping me prove my point. You know what? That is awesome.
Maybe some of you love them a little too much. You know, I got other videos, right? I make films and stuff too. Anyone want to watch those? Anyways, by far the most popular SpongeBob theory out there is the Bikini Atoll nuclear radiation theory. It's pretty simple. It's been confirmed that Bikini Bottom is actually beneath a real-life place called Bikini Atoll. From 1946 to 1958, the United States did nuclear tests there, devastating the area and leaving it radioactive even to this day. The theory states that the reason why the citizens of Bikini Bottom can talk and form advanced societies is because of mutations caused by these nuclear tests.
I don't think that,
Even though there's tons and tons of videos about it, none of them actually go in depth with it or really look through the show for evidence. But y'all know that if Alex Bale is making a theory on it, then it's not going to be some baby surface level analysis. I will watch every single episode of SpongeBob. I will read every page of the goddamn Wikipedia. If I'm making a theory on it, then you guys know it's going to be good.
Guys, so far, this could be it, but it's kind of hard to believe, because in the last video, they said they found, like in the first television theory, they said the scientists found this by itself, so like, they didn't do that, so they don't, so this doesn't really add up.
And once I really started looking into this theory, I realized that there is so much more here than anyone thinks. Get ready, because today we're going to be solving the biggest
Okay, that's just nub, but just look at the second one from the baby sponge. It's a nub, it has shoes. How does it have shoes? It has shoes, a nose, and that's it. And it's just a sponge. Oh, I'm just gonna keep going. This is just a nub.
SquarePants and changing the way you look at the entire show. So without further ado, let's look at the theory. In order to find out whether the Bikini Atoll theory is true, we first have to determine whether fish talking and being so intelligent is unique to Bikini Bottom, or if that's just the way the SpongeBob universe works. You know, it could just be that all animals in this world are able to talk, and that's completely normal because
no, actually, because in one of the movies, the fish are not like that.
10, episode 10, Feral Friends, we get a bit of a hint about how the SpongeBob world works. In this episode,
I watched a lot of SpongeBob when I was little, not anymore.
Less cartoony, real-life versions of themselves. Just like in real life, they can't talk and end up trying to eat each other. The French narrator is watching all this unfold, and he says this very important line.
I have been monitoring the behavior of the green moon all day. It is called Neptune theory. Every 100 years, it evolves everyone in Bikini Bottom into primal fish.
Every 100 years, it de-evolves everyone in
De-evol-
Bikini Bottom into primal fish. So this implies that the characters in Bikini Bottom are more evolved and were once like these primal fish. But this doesn't prove that the evolution only exists in Bikini Bottom. It could still be a worldwide phenomenon. Remember that bonus DVD clip I found in my television theory? It was about humans studying fish in Bikini
Yeah, I
Bottom
was
because
saying,
of their intelligence.
Land-loving scientists have tried to learn the secrets of intelligence. Their studies led them to the sea, where the citizens of one undersea colony demonstrated a genius so enormous, the scientists felt compelled to record their actions for use in teaching mankind how to live better.
This makes it sound an awful lot like the fish in Bikini Bottom actually are uniquely evolved, and it's not some worldwide haze.
Yeah.
Then, in the SpongeBob 20-year anniversary special, SpongeBob's Big Birthday Blowout, we get a major piece of evidence for this theory. SpongeBob and Patrick take a tour of the surface world and eventually go to a fish store and see some very realistic, less evolved fish.
What kind of monsters would want to keep fish folk in jail like this? They're so beautiful.
They can't talk back to SpongeBob and Patrick, and they're actually able to swim freely through the water instead of being affected by gravity. They are clearly showing us that both evolved and primitive fish exist in this universe at the same time. Now, sometimes we've seen Bikini Bottom characters represented as realistic fish like this, but only when they're out of water, never while they're still in water like these fish. We even see this again in the third SpongeBob movie, Sponge on the Run. The movie opens with a coral reef full of these realistic primal fish, but eventually we get to Bikini Bottom where the more evolved fish live. So there you go, direct proof that the citizens of Bikini Bottom are uniquely evolved. This is a very deliberate world-building choice for the creators to make. So I guess that kind of confirms the Bikini Atoll theory. Theory confirmed! We did it! Woo! Well, let's hold on for a second. As much as I'd love to call this theory complete, there's actually one major piece of evidence that gives me some resistance. Something I've never seen anyone else bring up when talking about this theory. Prehistoric Bikini Bottom. We've seen episodes like UGG or SB-129 that show Bikini Bottom millions of years in the past, but we still see evolved versions of SpongeBob and Patrick. Sure, they may not be super intelligent or advanced, but they're still clearly way more evolved than the primitive, realistic versions we see in Feral Friends or in the fish store. So, how are we seeing these evolutions millions of years before the Bikini Atoll tests? Well, unfortunately, I think the only conclusion is that the Bikini Atoll theory just isn't true. I mean, clearly something has caused Bikini Bottom citizens to be uniquely evolved. There's no denying that. But whatever caused it took place millions of years ago and couldn't have been the Bikini Atoll nuclear tests. Then, what really caused the evolution? In the entire show, the only thing we've seen that directly affects the evolution of characters is the Green Moon and Feral Friends. Except the French narrator specifically calls it Neptune's moon.
It is called Neptune's moon.
Named after the ruler of the seven seas, King Neptune.
Did he turn him into like that?
He's been around since the beginning of the sea. He's a character who the Bikini Bottom citizens view as their god, and he's a character who has the ability to change fish into other forms.
What the?
King Neptune used his magic to turn the fish of the sea into more evolved subjects for him to rule over. He's the one who's been behind it all this time. Now, I could spend this entire video talking about King Neptune and his weird continuity and contradictions in the show, but I'll save that for another theory. What I'd much rather talk about are the implications of having evolved and primitive fish coexisting in the sea. Now, we know that this evolution isn't specific to just Bikini Bottom. We've seen different cities and places far across the ocean that still have talking fish, which makes sense because the marine life of Bikini Bottom has evolved to resemble humans, so it's no surprise that just like humans, they've expanded beyond Bikini Bottom and colonized other areas of the sea. But now, I have an interesting question for you. What is the relationship between evolved fish and primitive unevolved fish? They probably just peacefully coexist in the sea without bothering each other.
No,
just like
man.
real life humans and animals. Wait a second.
Oh my goodness. The war? Guys, sometimes there will be ads.
Maya swears by Grammarly Business because it keeps her work on brand and error-free. Fast and easy. Learn more at Grammarly.com/business.
No.
In Season 3, Episode 10, the Krusty Krab training video, there is this hilarious, absurd moment when they're talking about Mr. Krabs.
After the war, crabs stayed secluded in a deep depression that seemed endless.
Like, what war happened in Bikini Bottom? They just tell us this and then completely drop it. But with this new context, is it possible that crabs fought in a war against these primitive, wild fish of the sea? I mean, let's remember in Feral Frenzy, some of those de-evolved fish were massive compared to the evolved fish, and they immediately started attacking each other.
The battle for the survival of the fittest rages on in the animal kingdom.
So yeah, in order for the Bikini Bottom citizens to survive and expand, they would probably break into some kind of war. And from the sounds of it, this war must have been pretty brutal to put Mr. Krabs into such a deep depression. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Is there actually any evidence that proves the war Mr. Krabs fought in was specifically this evolutionary war? Well, through the few flashbacks we get, we know that Mr. Krabs served in the Navy. And yes, they were sailing ships on an ocean, even though they're already underwater. This is actually a real-life phenomenon where certain parts of the sea can have a higher level of salinity, and it looks like an underwater ocean. Shout out Miss Parks, my high school marine biology teacher. We also know from maps of Bikini Bottom that the town is surrounded by this underwater ocean. So that places Mr. Krabs' war outside of Bikini Bottom, where this evolutionary war would have to take place. Then if we take a look at Mr. Krabs' home, we see it is full of memorabilia from his past history. But hidden within here is something that will absolutely blow your mind and answer one of the biggest questions in the show. Hanging there on his wall is a picture of a massive whale next to a ship. You don't think that could be... No, it can't be. Pearl's mother?
Mother of pearl.
Mr. Krabs' whale daughter. The show never really explains how a crab can be the mother of a whale, but most people just assume she was adopted. People have been speculating about who Pearl's biological mother is for years, and I think we finally just found our answer. We've seen 2 photos of this whale on a ship in Season 3, Episode 9, just 1 episode before we find out Mr. Krabs fought in a war. Since this is among all of Mr. Krabs' Navy stuff, I think we can assume that this is something he encountered, and not just some random picture of a whale on a ship above the ocean. The whale is massive compared to the ship. We've seen adult whales in Bikini Bottom before, but they are nothing compared to the size of this whale. This has a much closer resemblance to Pearl when she de-evolved in Feral Friends and became massive. So this has to be an unevolved primitive whale, and the picture clearly shows them fighting. Not only does this prove that there was a war between evolved and primitive fish, but Mr. Krabs definitely fought in it. But this also implies something very dark.
What is it?
Mr. Krabs killed Pearl's mother.
No. How? But how? Then why didn't he kill Pearl?
The only direct reference we get in the show to Pearl's mother is one of Mr. Krabs' many sayings, Mother of Pearl.
Mother of Pearl! Mother of Pearl! Holy Mother of Pearl!
He uses it in places something like Holy Crap or Dear God, only saying it when something truly shocking or terrible happens, as he knows the terrible thing that happened to Pearl's mother. Why did Mr. Krabs go into such a deep depression after the war? Because he's haunted by what he's done. And the smoking harpoon to prove it is right there on his wall. So, that leads us to an important question. Why did he adopt Pearl? After he killed her mother, he probably realized she had an infant daughter who had the evolutionary genes. Instead of leaving her to die, he adopted her as his own, all while keeping the dark secret that he was responsible for her mother's death. Woo! Childhood ruined yet? Well, don't worry.
No, I've been ruined before I even started watching these
Now's your
videos.
chance to remove yourself before things get really
I
dark.
heard Mr. Krabs has a cannibal. He made the crab patty out of crab.
Still
And
here?
see if I
Okay, so here's a fun question. What's the deal with all the pets in Bikini Bottom? How come most fish are basically humans, but a snail or a worm acts like a pet? Well, just like humans have domesticated wild animals, it should be no surprise that evolved fish have domesticated primitive fish as pets. Unlike the massive primitive fish that the Bikini Bottom citizens had to go to war with, there's also smaller primitive fish like jellyfish, snails, spirit worms, seahorses, and clams that the Bikini Bottom citizens were able to form a symbiotic relationship with. Oh, and I thought you said this was going to be the dark part, Alex. They're living peacefully together. That's nice. Okay, you got me. Here's another fun question. Where do the citizens of Bikini Bottom get their food? I mean, sure, some of it is plant-based, but there sure does seem to be an awful lot of meat-based food under the sea. I think
Maybe
you know
the
where I'm going
primitive
with this.
fish?
The Bikini Bottom citizens eat primitive fish. Haha, it's not cannibalism if they're less evolved than you, right? There's no moral dilemma there. In
No
Season
way.
3, Episode 13, we see direct proof of this when the characters go fishing for primitive clams. This is something completely normal in this world. And then there's the chum bucket, which sells chum. Chum. Chum is literally just ground up fish.
Yeah,
The show
that's
isn't even
true.
hiding this. Now, we don't really see too much of the meat harvesting side of Bikini Bottom, and I'm not surprised they're keeping it on the DL, with the whole cannibalism thing, but there is one secret to making food that is kept more secret than anything in
Krabby
Bikini
Patty
Bottom.
formula. Krabby Patty formula. Come on, I have to be your Krabby Patty formula.
Krabby Patty secret formula.
Yes.
Throughout the show, there's been lots of
I forgot the
contradictory
secret.
evidence about the formula. In season 4, episode 7, Mr. Krabs says it's an old family recipe.
Your mother knows the Krabby Patty formula? Of course she does. It's an old Krabs family recipe.
But in season 5, episode 1, apparently Mr. Krabs discovered it on his own by accidentally mixing random ingredients together. Sometimes it's a secret formula, sometimes it's a book, sometimes it's a secret sauce, and any glimpse we get of the formula is just random nonsense. There is a ton of contradictory evidence out there, but I think this might all be intentional. In order to throw people off, Mr. Krabs has spread misinformation about the Krabby Patty formula. In fact, he's already done this in season 3, episode 18, by hiding a fake formula for Plankton to find that says he's the secret ingredient.
Mixed together with the most important ingredient of all, 4 heaping pounds of freshly ground plankton.
And the contradictions aren't just inside the show. Even one of the SpongeBob crew members once said that Krabby Patties are vegetarian and contain no meat. But I've always been a little suspicious of what the creators say. They've also said that they're not allowed to show fish as food, except they clearly do with chum, clam fishing, and all the many, many gags where fish turn into food. It's almost like they're not allowed by Nickelodeon to publicly acknowledge this because that could create a controversy, but they could still sneak this dark secret into the show. So, what is the true secret ingredient? Where does the meat really come from? It's strange, we never really see Mr. Krabs get the meat delivered, or at least go out himself to get it. It's almost like he has all the meat he needs stockpiled somewhere.
Oh, don't tell me it's Pearl's mother.
Mr. Krabs have access to. Maybe he's been holding on to something from the war.
Huh?
What did Mr. Krabs have killed during the war that he doesn't want anyone to find out about? Something big enough to supply him with meat for years without eating more. What could that be?
Whale.
Make me say it. Mr. Krabs is using Pearl's dead mother's carcass to make Krabby Patties. Woo! We did it! Yeah, we solved the mystery! We did it!
My childhood is even more ruined because of you.
Episode 15, Sleepy Time.
Evil.
Mr. Krabs has a dream that he's on a boat fishing for a massive dollar. This is his memory of killing Pearl's mother. Except now,
Goodness.
all he sees her as
First of all, how does that work? Why is he drink? Well, he's obsessed with money. Why would it? Why is it about a whale? He's obsessed with money, so I don't blame him about dreaming about money.
his money. And take a guess what name he calls the dollar.
What you doing, Mr. Krabs?
Hey, picking the goose bucket.
What are you talking about?
I'm talking about cold hard flipping cash. It's the mighty Moby Dollar.
Moby Dollar. A direct reference to Moby Dick, a story about hunting a whale. Are you kidding me? And that is the evolution
little.
theory. I warned you guys this would be a dark one. The Bikini Atoll theory, King Neptune, Pearl's mother, the Krabby Patty formula. We hit everything in this theory. Even if you don't agree with all of it, you gotta admit.
Whoa, what?
Huh. Well, already then, that's the end of that theory. I warned you guys this would be a dark one. The Bikini Atoll theory, King Neptune,
Whoa, I missed
Pearl's mother,
something.
the Krabby Patty formula. We hit everything in this theory. Even if you don't agree with all of it, you gotta admit a lot of this makes sense. Eugene Krabs' aspirations for money and greed have caused him to do terrible, terrible things. At least his love for Pearl seems to be real, so maybe there's some small amount of good in him. And even though Pearl's mother probably provides tons of meat, eventually he's gonna run out and he'll have to face what he's done. Well, unless of course there's another whale he has access to. Nope.
No, don't no.
Mr. Krabs
Nuh-uh.
doesn't do that.
No. He loves Pearl.
Patty meat.
Or he loves Pearl. This is impossible. No.
Even Mr. Krabs isn't that much of a monster.
Every side I've ever seen.
Yes. See, he won't give up Pearl.